Hello, and welcome to ZettaScale Community Kickoff. I'm Angelo Corsaro, ZettaScale CEO and CTO, and today I'm going to share with you a little bit more information about ZettaScale's, share with you the highlights from 2022, and give you some insights on what we plan to do in 2023. But to begin with, I would like to just recall you what is our mission. I think it's very important to understand what we are working on and then understand the value that we put in what we are doing. So our mission is to make sure that every connected human and machine can have the unconstrained freedom to communicate, compute, and store anywhere at any scale, efficiently and securely. What does that mean? That means that we want to free you for all the constraints that sometimes are topological, provided by existing protocols. Other times are related to where you can store the data. Other times are related to where you can perform computation. And we want to make sure that we provide you technologies that always support you the right choice. Not the choice that they are making for you, the choice that makes sense for your system. And we do that, following the Zettler values. We consider ourselves as technology knights, and as a consequence, being knights, we live and embrace the 7 knightly virtues. Okay, so this is ZettaScale mission. These are Zettler's value, and in a way, I think that defines who we are. And I hope that you actually, see that in what we produce as technology and what we do as individual. Okay, 2022 was for us an incredible year. Why? Well, several reasons. First of all, we raised a strategic investment from TT Tech Auto, which believed in our vision, believed in our mission, saw the potential of our technology, both Cyclone and Zeno, right, and decided to become a shareholder of ZettaScale. So great. But beyond that, TT Tech Auto also decided to enter with ZettaScale a strategic technological alliance, and we decided to put together joint forces, essentially, our experience with distributed system, with middleware, their experience in automotive, and more importantly in certification, to bring on the market the first European DDS certified implementation, and again, certified to the highest level of the ISO 26262. Let's recall the DDS is a key technology in robotics, has been adopted in automotive by the means of AUTOSAR. But as we are innovators, we just can't help it. What we also want to provide to our user is the ability to leapfrog competition and jump on the next big thing. The next big thing is Zeno. And so we are also coming up with a certified version of Zeno that will allow you to decide you want to use established protocol, you want to use next generation protocol. We'll support you. We are there, to fuel your success. As a company, we started growing. One of the reasons for spinning off was essentially to muscle up and make sure that we can accelerate our development and can better support our community, better support our customer. And our team, is not just technology knights, is a bunch of extremely passionate individuals that are also very talented. Around 70% of our engineers hold a PhD, and we have talents coming from all across the world. So in 2022, we started growing. In 2023, we'll continue to grow. And if you like what we do, just send an application. We need you, okay? Now, if we move to product highlights, if we start with Cyclone DDS, our objective is simple. For those of you that know Nespresso and the famous advertisement, we want to make of Cyclone DDS that what else DDS implementation. You need DDS, you should be thinking Cyclone, what else? And how are we making that possible? Well, zero adoption barrier, because we have an open source implementation of DDS, and it is an implementation that just works. Why do I say that? Well, in fact, it's not me saying it, it's our community. And it's sufficient for you to browse our Discord or perhaps the comment on our GitHub repository. You will see several users say, hey, guys, great job, because I was using implementation from this other vendor X, Y, or whatever, and I was having all this bunch of problems with my robots. I switched to Cyclone DDS, and it just works. I mean, this is just music to our ears. I mean, this is why we do this work. I mean, to hear, customers that use our technology and can focus on their solving their problem, as opposed to having to deal with fixing communication issues created by, the communication technology. We have tightened the integration between Cyclone and Zeno, and now you can seamlessly integrate Cyclone and Zeno to making sure that if you have to address R2X, so robot to infrastructure or robot to robot communication, even from the DDS island, you can leverage the power of the Zeno protocol. And if we look at what happened in Zenoland this year, I mean, the Young Dragon protocol is growing stronger and stronger. I mean, we've had incredible adoption. In the last 3 months, we have had 5 commercial deployment of Zeno, which is just great, and in some super exciting application ranging from robotics, industrial automation, distributed analytics, and internet gaming. I mean, quite incredible, really, applications. We are, establishing Zeno as the de facto standard for R2X and V2X communication. The example of that is in the adoption, and beyond the adoption, for instance, the recommendation that came out of the ITU just in September 2022. In September 2022, after 2 years of research and investigation, a working group that was tasked by the AI for transportation came up with a recommendation that the protocol to be used for intelligent transport system communication was Zeno. And again, this was after 2 years, after investigating all the protocols that are available out there and failing to solve some of use cases, specifically the witness use case, as they call, or the digital witness, which is a very interesting use case in which you might have a potential crash between autonomous car. You have digital witnesses, and then the question is, how do I recover the data, right? It's like you have database on wheels moving around. Well, with Zeno, it's pretty straightforward because you can use a Zeno query. For those of you that are familiar with Zeno, those of you that aren't, just take a look at our webinar available on YouTube, to become a Zeno expert. The other things that is very encouraging, there was recently a recommendation from the NSA, so the National Security Association, that really makes a call for arms for making sure that people start using memory-safe language. Guess what? Zeno is built in Rust, and our decision to use Rust was precisely for memory and concurrency safety. Why? Where we knew very well that around 70% of the security bugs and 17% of the exploits that are used for cracking system and compromising the security of system are tied to security to memory issues. Thus our choice for a memory-safe language. But if we move to 2023, 2023 for Zeta is a pivotal year, right? I mean, we have 6 months of tenure, so we are not even a year. We are already achieving incredible things, and 2023 will be a very structural year for us. We'll continue to grow. So as I said, if you like what you do, we need you. We'll continue to grow, making sure that we hire the best talents around the world. We will do critical work toward finalizing the certification of our Cyclone DDS and Zeno. And moving forward, we will continue our engagement with our community. I'm not sure if you're already part of our Discord community, but if you are, you will have noticed how open and welcoming we are and how much we value your feedback. I mean, every release that we have done of our product, there are features that you have asked for. One example, for instance, when we were at the ROS conference, our users were asking, hey, great, you help us with V2X and R2X in ROS2. How about ROS1? Can you do the same? And the ROS1 bridge or the ROS1 plugin for Zeno is coming out. You've been working on it in the past couple of months. So more and more engagement with the community, right? And there will be coming up mid-2023 a series of major product announcements. So stay tuned, because we are really going to revolutionize the world of distributed computing. So before moving to the next speaker, I would like to conclude with our forever promise. In ZettaScale, we really strive to make things simple, as for us simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And I think the other very important things, and that goes back to our value, but those of you that have worked for us or worked with us in complex system know how much we value this, is that we will be there to support you always, in good and in bad times. And as I always say to my kids and to my colleagues and friends, you can always discover you can count on in bad times. So, where there are strict project deadlines, where you need to go the extra miles, when we need to work on the weekend. I mean, we have done that for customer when, they had on tight deadline and, they didn't ask to accelerate something. We are always there and will always be there because, being there in the long term is what makes the difference. What makes the difference is having a partner that you can trust. And Zettlers are those kind of partners. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for your attention. Stay tuned because we will have very important announcement coming up. And at this point, I leave the floor to Carolina, which runs marketing in ZettaScale, and will share you what's coming up next.
Thank you, Angelo, for the introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are. It's great to be here with you, and I'll keep it short and sweet, just as marketing is just a very recent addition to the ZettaScale family. First of all, please make sure that you will follow us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will be giving you all the information about what is happening in a ZettaScale world, but also in the industry. So you can be always up to date with the newest information. Another thing that I would like to bring to your attention is our newsletter. We will start sending it out to all the subscribers. The newsletter will be a fun way of getting up close with Zettlers, getting all the summary of what was happening within, throughout the last month. And we will always bring you some funny facts and figures from the world of robotics and any other industries that we are interested in. Events, we will be going to, in the Q1, we will be going to FIRA in Toulouse, the Agricultural Robotics Show conference, and to the Embedded World we will be there together with Eclipse Foundation. That's it from me. I would like to give the microphone now to Luca, the Zeno conductor. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Carolina, for introducing me. Hi, everyone. I'm Luca Cuminardi, the product conductor of Zeno here at ZettaScale. And today I would like to bring with me, together with Zeno, to just see what the year 2022 was for Zeno, as well what lies ahead for Zeno for 2023. For people who don't know Zeno, it's just a nice reminder what you can do with Zeno and what amazing technology is. So Zeno is a technology that unifies data in motion, data at rest, and computation across heterogeneous systems that is capable to go really from the microcontroller up to the cloud data center. It does that by providing a location transparent API to do PubSub and distributed query. And all of this can be used really to provide geo-distributed storage abstraction and computation. So to better understand what I'm talking about, I'm going to share on screen a few animation that helps you understand what you can do with Zeno. And here we go on the screen. So let's imagine that we've got a fleet of robots that need to intercommunicate with each other. And also we've got a set of storages and applications that need to supervise, for example, these complex systems. With Zeno, you can interconnect all of them, and you can use Zeno to do some pub-sub. Let's assume that you've got some robot that what it needs to do is to publish their actual position to see where it is and to coordinate with other robots. This position can be published and can be either consumed by, for example, a monitoring application, for example, a guy in the factory supervising the correct functioning of the robots, and also stored for some logging purposes on databases. At the same time, we can also support in Zeno devices can be, for example, battery powered and can go on sleep mode. So when you publish data, that data reaches the closest point to the robot, and then that robot, as soon as it wakes up, can go and fetch that data, and then it can go back to sleep. Similar to PubSub in Zeno, we also support distributed queries. So let's assume now that I want to know the position of my robots on demand. So I don't want to wait them to publish data. So what we can do with Zeno is to issue a query that will be able to retrieve the data you're interested in, regardless where it is stored, and provide it back in a consolidated manner to you. So with Zeno, you can really do PubSub, query reply, geo-distributed storages in over heterogeneous environment where different type of networks like 5G, 4G, Wi-Fi, and also wire networks, as well as different type of devices like mobile devices, robots, and microcontrollers. So let me stop sharing, and let's continue our journey to see what has happened in 2022 for what concerns Zeno. Well, we really started with a big event back in June about the Zeno Summit, where it was really targeting our Zeno community, where we spent a full day with our community talking about Zeno, experimenting about Zeno, and doing some tutorial with Zeno live. And this was done in our location in Paris. Then we continued our Zeno journey and participation to conferences, our community to Roscon last year, where we really target our robotics community. Many of you already using Zeno for together with ROS2 for your robotics application, and we were there showcasing and talking with you about what you need for Zeno, what you can offer for Zeno for robotics application. Similar thing we did at EclipseCon this year, where we really met the IoT and the Eclipse community to see what you can do with Zeno for IoT scenarios or IoT application. Similar thing we did it with the Bosch Connected World. We were there looking really how we can use Zeno for tiny robotics application as well as industrial IoT application. But the big event that really we did this year, it was at the end of the year, it was our first webinar about Zeno, Taming the Dragon. This was a series of 6 episodes where we really start from what Zeno is, how it was born, and how to get started with Zeno, and how we can develop an application with Zeno, either for robotics or for microcontrollers, as well as how we can write and integrate different storage technologies with Zeno. All of this is publicly available. We're gonna leave here below some links to the different Zeno Summit and the webinar. So really encourage you to get through it and to watch it and provide a feedback. Let's go a bit more technical now. So you're seeing how Zeno was really participating in various events. But what did we release about Zeno? It was a big release back in September, so where we released Zeno Bahamut with the release version 0.6.0. And that was the result of a huge effort from the Zeno team regarding API stability and a better Zeno system model. This was made really with a future backward compatibility in mind, so how to be able to keep expanding Zeno capabilities, features in the future without breaking existing system. This has been a huge effort from the Zeno team, and an amazing work was done by everybody there. And you might have heard, like a few days ago, we released Zeno Charmander, so release 070 for Zeno. And this a release that added quite a few new features, especially asked by our community, regarding security, regarding new APIs, and new transport. Particularly, we introduced the support for TLS mutual authentication in Zeno. So now you might have, for example, your router, Zeno router in the cloud, and you can authenticate your devices via TLS with the mutual authentication, or do the same things locally in your fleet of robot. We also introduced a new API, C++ binding. So this adds on top of already existing Rust API, Python API, C API, and REST API. Now we also have the C++ API. Huge work has been done also for this release, especially for Zeno Pico. Zeno Pico is our Zeno implementation targeting microcontroller, like as small as Arduino, that is also able to run on Zephyrs and embed. And on Zeno Pico, we have been doing a lot of work for what concerns following the guidelines from MISRA C for safety application. So Zeno Pico now follows those guidelines, so it's very well suited for all the safety critical application scenarios. We also introduced a new support for networks that we can use and to run on top of Zeno. We can use Bluetooth to really communicate for Zeno. We can also have a better integration with Zeno in web technology to be able to use WebSocket, for example, in the browser, as well as to have Zeno to directly work on top of serial connectivity for industrial scenario. And very importantly, we also introduced a new plugin for Zeno, the MQTT plugin, where you can use your out-of-the-box MQTT client, either a version 3 or version 5 for your MQTT client, connecting to the MQTT plugin of Zeno, and from there getting all the possibilities that you could get through Zeno, but having a legacy MQTT client. So what I showed before about distributed PubSub integration for storages and queries. So this was the year so far, really, for Zeno, what we've been delivered, but what is ahead, what we plan to do. Let me start for a very important topic that I would like to solve for the community, to improve it, really to deliver faster and more frequent releases to our Zeno community. There is some ongoing work that we will need to go for the CI/CD, our pipeline, that really will allow us to get more frequent release and more frequent patch release as well for the community, so deliver more features faster to our community. Very important features that was asked by our community is access control. This is expected to come this year, so at the start, the work has started, and some discussion is also ongoing between the community, either on our channels on GitHub and on Discord, so where discussion is happening. So if you have something to say, please contribute to our discussion on GitHub, on Discord. We are waiting for you. Another thing that we plan to really introduce, to really push, especially Zeno Pico towards the industrial settings, is the support on CAN bus, to have Zeno to work on CAN kind of networks. And staying on embedded work, we already started some working to get Zeno be able to work on WebAssembly. This opens a huge number of opportunities for Zeno to run from embedded scenarios as to run on exactly natively in the browser. And we are doing this also to tackling Embassy as a Rust framework for Rust. There is a huge work that is going on also for Zeno for what concerns the robotics community, specifically for what concerns Zeno and ROS community. So we are developing a ROS1 bridge and a ROS2 specific bridge for Zeno to natively integrate with the ROS framework to get really Zeno to be able to bring all your robotics communication from the microcontrollers up to the cloud data centers wherever you need, regardless how you are building your robotics application. We also plan to expand further the support for MQTT plugin, introducing and supporting new MQTT features like MQTT TLS, retention, and QS1 and QS2. And lately, we are also planning to introduce a new plugin for Zeno, as we did for MQTT, to enable all the MQTT clients to take advantage of all the Zeno features. We plan to introduce a new plugin, a Kafka plugin, to be able to integrate natively with Kafka and also enable all the Kafka native clients to take advantage of all the Zeno features. And like just to conclude here for Zeno, this was an amazing year, 2022 for Zeno. Another amazing year is ahead of us, 2023. And thanks for interested in Zeno. If you want to know more, please don't forget to reach us on Discord and on GitHub. And now it's the time for me to give the floor to Eric Bosson, the product conductor of Cyclone DDS.
Thanks, Luca, for telling everybody about Zeno and what's happening there. I'm Eric Bosson. I'm the project lead for Cyclone DDS, and it follows, I would say, that I will be saying something about what's been going on for Cyclone DDS and what's going to happen in the coming year. So last year, 22, was a really good year for us. We gained a lot of new users, we gained a lot of new features, and gained new contributors, also very important. So, but probably the most special thing for me personally was attending ROSCON in Kyoto. So Cyclone's been a key or middleware for ROS2 for several years now. And yet I had never been to ROSCON. This was just pure accident with timing and COVID and stuff. So at some point, I started wondering, or we started wondering actually, how many people are actually using Cyclone? Because we're not getting that many issues, and well, you know, if you don't hear anything, then how are you supposed to know where it's being used? And at some point, you start thinking that it would even be better to get issues and problems and bugs than to not hear anything at all. But at ROSCON, it turned out it was like half the people or something were actually using Cyclone DDS. And so that was really, really great. And it really motivates us to continue. Now, in addition to ROS, there are other companies using it, and we know this. But even then, we usually only hear about it when they run into some complication, and then you discover, oh, this interesting project is using it. So, if anything, I could say, please be generous in telling us when you use it, because it really makes our life a lot more fun. And so, as I said, we've got more contributors. There's like 35 people that contributed in the past year. And we're at 80 contributors total. It's still nowhere near where Linux is, of course, but well, we're not that old and also not that big, and also more niche than Linux, so that was to be expected. Still, the vast majority of contributions has been from ZettaScale, but at least in 22, I was pushed out of the first place, and my real goal is to make this a successful open source project. I really don't want to be the most prolific committer all the time. So that's a big win, and as far as I'm concerned. Feature-wise, the things we added in, the key things that we added in 22 are, I would say, the C++ and Python APIs. I mean, some bits and pieces were there before 22, but now it actually all works. It's all there. It's supported. We added shared memory-based communication using using Eclipse ISORIX. We added, this is the really big feature, support for X types and topic discovery. This will allow you to evolve your types in an existing system, and so it's quite a big thing. Other things, of course, are smallish things like support for multiple network interfaces, fixing bugs, just the usual stuff. We've also put effort in the documentation and the website. So, because we know that was kind of a weak spot of Cyclone. And for 23, we definitely intend to continue improving the documentation and the website and the accessibility of the information. We're not going to commit to many new features in 23. There are two reasons for that. But I think the primary one is that I've been too optimistic too many times in my life by now. And so I don't want to promise things and then have to find out that yet again this time we didn't make it. So just going to say we'll be adding an API for manipulating types at runtime from applications. Several people have asked for it. ROS2 is planning some new features that really depend on it, so it's clear this is simply something that's needed. We've also received several requests for a C# API, and we'll be adding that. The really big feature that interests me the most personally is the support for transient data. I've consistently been saying it will happen in the coming year for now a few years. So it's like nuclear fusion. But every time it failed because something or other came up, causing a friend of mine who really wants to do it, not to have enough time to do it. But now it seems that this problem has been sorted. So I'm really hopeful and quite confident that we'll make it this time around. And that feature, support for transient data, will turn Cyclone DDS into fully featured DDS implementation as I understand DDS, which is different from how most people understand DDS. In addition to all the work for the open source, ZettaScale is going to be doing 2 commercially available Cyclone DDS derivatives based on Eclipse Cyclone DDS. One is Cyclone DDS Pro, the professional commercial edition that takes the Cyclone DDS code base and adds some features to it, like better tooling or more sophisticated ways of dealing with transient data or whatever. You get support packages, you get training possibilities, consulting, all the usual stuff that you see with commercial packages. And the first release of this is due anytime, I would say. The other thing that we're working on is an ISO 26262 ASIL-D safety certified version. Like a lot of the use you see in DDS these days is in robotics and in automotive. And in all of these cases, before long, you start talking about safety critical systems. And of course, if you want to use DDS in a safety critical system, you need to have a safety certified DDS implementation. So this is what we're working on. It's quite a change in mindset from an open source project for an open source project to do safety certification, because everything in safety certification starts with paperwork, and we always started with code, but it's a really interesting thing to do, and it will bring really new, interesting areas where people will be able to and will be happy to use Cyclone DDS. So now, and all the work that we are doing for the commercial versions, to the extent that we can, we'll roll the changes into or we won't roll them in. We will propose the changes for the open source edition. And then, of course, it's up to the open source project to decide whether to take them. But in practice, that's so far usually my goal. And in that case, it just gets accepted. What we're also going to be doing is a webinar series starting in February, because we really want to make it easier for people to learn about all kinds of things, the history of DDS, or how to optimize the use of shared memory, or how to use Cyclone in large scale systems, or lots of things, how to whatever. It doesn't really matter. All these things, and these webinars will be presented by anyone. It could by my colleagues basically at ZettaScale. So it won't just be me talking, fortunately for you. It will be a variety of people, each with his own interests, each with his own expertise, and we'll hope you enjoy those very much. And with that, I would like to hand over to Angelo Corsaro, our CEO, to wrap up this event.
Thank you, Eric, for sharing with us what's next in Cyclone DDS. And now we are at the end, at the conclusion of this community kickoff. I hope all of you enjoyed it. For sure, we had great time sharing with you what's next in Zeta, what's next with our great technologies. And we have tried to answer all your questions live. If you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments, or just drop us an email at contact@zetascale.tech. We'll answer immediately. So thank you very much for joining us. I look forward to having more interaction with you, and see you soon. Bye, everyone. Ciao, ciao.